we're here today. Lisa Ketjen, Corporate Partnerships Manager of the Usher Group. Dear friend, amazing employee, just full of life. Really excited to be chatting to you today. So welcome to the Usher podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, gosh, with that intro, wow.
Yeah.
I think I can go home now.
There you go. I think I've been wanting to line this up from day one. I think when I first thought about us doing a podcast, instantly I thought it's going to be great to have you on at some stage, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll probably do future episodes, but you've really emerged in recent times. How long have you been with the group now? I'm trying to think.
3 years.
3
Yeah,
years.
3 years. I know. 3
Does it
years.
feel like a blur?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does feel like a blur.
Yeah.
I must say it's gone quickly, which is, I suppose, good and bad. And good in the sense that absolutely love what I get to do. So the time's gone. Bad probably in that you realise it's 3 years.
3 years, yeah. I would say in that 3 years' time is just amazing to see how much you've grown in this industry and how much you've helped the Usher Group grow its brand and awareness out in the industry. And I think our brand recognition, our brand equity is so much stronger for you having been on board with us, and you've become a bit of a face of Usher in the industry. Through all different mediums. It's obviously a lot of work that you do behind the scenes, but also the work you do out there. But I think before we jump into a bit of that, I'd just love to recap just a bit on your background and your history, where you've come from. How did you end up here at Usher?
Gosh, I had my own business from 18 and then decided, I think it was 2020, no reason, had nothing to do with COVID, didn't have anything to do with that, probably just felt like a change.
Yeah, well.
And sort of thought, let's explore a little bit of going out to work for somebody. Family thought I was completely nuts.
Yep.
And I had no idea why and put it down to midlife crisis, everything else. And then,
Wow.
COVID kind of hit, and I think it was, I sometimes need to go back, but probably about mid 2020, I think it was around there. And there was a article I'd seen on Theo. And I think that's kind of, when I jumped on to yourselves and touched base a little bit on that. But prior to that, own business probably for, over, I'm going to give my age away, over 30 years.
Wow.
Which
That's
I love.
a great long-standing business for yourself.
It's a long-standing business.
Yeah. And what was that business doing?
So pretty much I went to uni, got a degree. While I was at uni, I had to get some part-time work, probably partying a little bit too much, all that sort of thing. Probably wasn't studying what I ever wanted to study at uni. So I landed up going into printing of T-shirts, and that just sort of all evolved from there. Sort of went into branding and I suppose a little bit of everything. And at its biggest, probably had, close to 80 staff that, were in the business at that stage, had some amazing clients, and then landed up, immigrating, coming here. So I was going backwards and forwards, got a lot of new clients here, spent a lot of time traveling, and
so the business was back home in South Africa?
Business was back in South Africa. However, at that stage, I could operate it from here.
Wow.
So whilst I was going back probably 4 times a year, eventually that just sort of changed a little bit and managed to run everything from here.
Wow.
So I probably spent better part of, say about 15 years of the business solely here.
Wow.
Which worked well. So
how did you find that transition from South Africa business and coming to Australia? Was it an easy transition, or was there a bit to learn coming into the Australian market?
Yeah, I think the transition's easy. I mean, what's not to love about Australia? Let's be honest. And you always know. I always say to people, so passionately, fiercely Australian, just minus the accent. And probably the biggest challenge was, I think, when I came out here over 21 years ago, was the South Africans were perceived quite differently in business, and something that I was completely the opposite of.
Yep.
I think there was that arrogance, that abruptness, all that sort of thing. So that was probably challenging, but at the same time, hard work ethic and more determined to. I think you've really got to work harder because you don't come from here, you don't have a history.
Yes,
so you've got to build that history up, and I was fortunate. I think from when I started in just sort of business here, I landed up with some really, really nice clients who helped, and I suppose we just sort of forged those relationships. So I was pretty lucky with that. And I love business. So
you can tell. Yeah. I think that's one of the things I love about you and being on board with Usher is that you've got a bit of that business owner's mentality, obviously, from having your own business, and you're so independent, you're so self-driven, motivated, but you understand what business is about and you understand how networking really works and how to form good partnerships. And it's just so perfect and fitting for your role that's here with Usher, and that giving you that ability to go out and help us just grow the brand and do it the right way. And, I feel like you've had an impact on the industry, and even encouraging other businesses to do more of what you're doing in terms of building genuine relationships, genuinely adding value, and, not just interacting with people because there's a direct benefit out of it, and I think businesses these days, the more and more it's becoming about relationships again, but we've gone through a cycle where it was very transactional and it was very like, well, what are you going to give me? And it's there was people weren't willing to interact with each other unless they thought there was a direct benefit.
Yep.
And I think you coming on board with Usher was like, well, we may not necessarily do direct business together, but why can't we be in partnership? Why can't we help each other grow our professional network? Why can't we open doors for each other and help each other's businesses out? And that's why I think you've got such a great following as well of people that, not just, you've attracted them to the Usher brand, but they're very much attracted to your personal brand as well, which is the Lisa Ketjen brand. So I think it's been really cool to watch. And, even just testament to how, maybe do you want to talk us through? So you spotted Theo in an article. What happened from there? How did you end up here at Usher? It was a bit of a fun story for that.
Yeah, I think it was a fun story. I think it was, I think I reached out to him on, and I think everybody knows, especially you, because I'm fortunate I get to work with you every single day, but technologically challenged on so many levels. And I think I was super spoiled. I always had people doing everything. So sort of had to re-engage LinkedIn. Which was quite entertaining, and everybody comes. I mean, LinkedIn, I think a couple of years ago was very much, it was about yourself. It wasn't collectively anything beyond that. How fantastic you were in that, and I think I reached out to Theo. It was a direct message, and just sort of something along the lines of, "Hey Theo, this is who I am. Middle-aged, not really looking for anything, not really sure. Just thought it'd be great to catch up." And I must actually go back and find that. And probably Theo was as surprised as I'm sure yourselves. And then I think if you recall, we were in lockdown at that stage. I think we'd already progressed into, what was it, probably about 2021 at that stage.
That's right.
And then started catching up, and I think I kept sending these quirky sort of things to everybody, if you recall that as well.
Absolutely.
And I think I spent a lot of time trying to think what sort of fits in with the brand, the business, that. And what did we spend? We spent, I think it must be a good year and a half sort of going to and fro. I remember you and I meeting and having coffees and more coffees and sort of going, what can we do? Obviously a big risk, I always think you've got your own business whilst you've got a lot. I'd never worked for anybody as such. So it was kind of a real different dynamic. But yes, I remember that clearly, reaching out thinking, oh, well, here goes. This is, what we're thinking. And between all those lockdowns, and I think Theo, I think he was in Byron at that stage, and yourself, and we sort of formed like this little friendship before anything else happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was very Lisa Ketjen style. It was your own, your flavour on it. And I actually recall that too. So Theo grabbed that email, forwarded on to myself, Stuart and Shane at the time, and basically said, like, how cool is this? Like, just, because you just had your own spin on it and just trying to like edify the business and Theo, but also opening up opportunities, not knowing what that might look like. And you're right, it took some time, and credit to you. You played the long game, invested in the relationships, getting to know probably each of us in our own quirks and personalities. And I think the reason it took a while as well is that, I mean, we were going through an uncertain time in the industry, economics with COVID and all those sort of things. We were making a lot of changes as a business. We're actually in the process of consolidating. So, we weren't looking to expand our workforce and grow. We were actually shrinking down in terms of what we were doing with what was going on. But we'd never actually had someone in a role like that didn't have, again, like a direct measurable outcome. And so for us, we didn't know what we didn't know that would look like, but we could see value in you. And I think you made a really strong impression, as you do with everyone that you meet and who you interact with. So yeah, we just sort of decided that we would go on this journey with you of just discovering what a corporate partnerships partner would look like, having you on board, and so grateful that we did. So
and so grateful for that opportunity. And it's so funny, I often think back to that couch in Theo's office, and I was on one couch and yourself, Theo and Stu on the other couch. And we all kind of just looked at each other as if to go, so. And I remember going, so what do you think you can really do? And it was. And I mean, I've always said a huge credit to yourself. Like you gave the opportunity, whilst the group as such did. You had to work with me.
Yep.
And learn and navigate around. And everybody knows, forever grateful for that,
Yep.
kind of.
And we continue to learn together and
Yes,
grow together.
continue to learn and grow. And as I said, so many times I can kind of quote, and I think sometimes age adds a bit of fun to that as well.
Yep.
I
thought it would be great to touch on as well, maybe some of your key milestones in the last 3 years of being here to help understand what it looks like being a corporate partnerships manager, what your focus areas are, but then some of the success that leads to. And I think I can think back to so many events now that you've made a huge success for the group. And I mean, we're a specialized trade business. We're in the construction industry. So events and things like that are not naturally, it's not something that people go, oh yeah, you're a commercial painting company or a signage business, you're going to do great events. But having you on board, I just think it's been amazing if we reflect back on some of those things, but maybe just walk us through a few milestones or what it's looked like building up to that point. And
I think what's been, as you touched on earlier, was the fact that we try, even though you might directly not be doing business with a company, you collectively bringing businesses together from completely a myriad of industries. It's not just construction, it's everybody. And I think out of that, business grows. And probably, I think the biggest milestones over the last 3 years have been the opportunities where we've gone to events or obviously hosted our own events and that, but out of that, business has come.
Absolutely.
And whether business is never going to come straight after you have a coffee or you have an event or you host somebody or whatever else. It's going to come, I think, from doing that, the introductions, and then just, I think, following up.
Follow-up is so key, isn't it?
Following
so many
up
people
is
do
key.
great introductions, but they don't do the follow-up, and you miss those opportunities. But you're right. And I think that's maybe a common misconception is people might go to events, and if they don't get a direct business straight away, they think it was a failure.
Yeah.
Whereas your mentality is so different. It's more about what connections did you form? What was the diversity of those businesses? And then you start playing that strategic game and how you connect the right people together. And we've had some amazing opportunities pop up from that we would have never been exposed to them. Like it just wouldn't have even been on our radar or our bandwidth of communication or client lists. And it's just credit to you putting the brand out there, which is really cool.
I think it's also the fact that we're a business that has just so many variances to it. So it's not just the painting. It's the painting, the signage, the repaint, maintenance, access. We've got a lot happening. And I think that was probably one of the key things, was breaking away from you only paint.
Absolutely.
Or we don't only paint. And I think that's been amazing. It's just getting it out there, that being able to see, even going to events where you land up at an event and having the access team there, not quite sure why they were with me at this event, which was a sporting event, but walking away, having met people and landing a job from it.
Yeah.
So I think it's
and
those
we're still continuing to do work with that group.
Yeah.
I think Dan was talking about another project coming up in the next week or two with them.
Yeah.
So it's just so cool. You just never know where things are going to come from. And that's why you've got to be having that mentality of abundance and looking for opportunity. And I'm just so grateful that we've got you in that role, that you've got the right mindset and the attitude for it. You're always looking for the opportunity and you're keeping us fresh as an organization as well, because we can tend to get quite insular. And, Usher Group's been around for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
We've got some core clients that we do continuous work for, we do great work for, and you can get, I guess, complacent might be a word, but you can just get comfortable with doing the same thing repetitively and having some success with that. But we often will miss out on opportunities because we stay in that bubble. And you're helping us go out of that bubble and look at what else is there. And, sometimes timing and different constraints can cause challenges. But the fact is that you're opening up opportunities that is forcing us as a business to go, well, we still want to grow. We still want to have new clients on board. So how can we cater to that? How can we change some systems and processes to allow us to actually service those customers to the same extent that we do our existing customers? And
I think I think it's always that, and you and I have that discussion so often is, you've obviously got your core clients that sit, obviously up at the top, but it's that bread and butter that I think you've got to do. And, I'm a big believer in that bread and butter. They become the big clients eventually. It's like anything.
Especially when you look after them.
Yeah, if you look after them. And I think, different generations and I think the beauty of business now, and probably a lot of it has come out of what happened through those COVID years, was everybody wants to do business with everybody. It was quite insular before. If you were a lawyer, you only did you only mixed with lawyers. Construction, you only mixed with construction. Whereas I think now you've broadened it. So out of that, I think the work opportunities have grown because people suddenly go, because you're dealing with somebody in a law firm doesn't mean you're never going to get work from them.
Yeah,
Because lawyers
absolutely.
have buildings or offices or that sort of thing. So it's probably, I think for us as a business, that's the exciting part. And the exciting part is, like I always say, networking. Don't expect anything straight away. I think networking's it's a give.
Absolutely.
It's not a give and take, but it's a give. And I think that network, we've been fortunate enough, especially as a group and a brand, to grow enormously.
Enormously.
And that's probably one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm probably incredibly proud of, is being able to have been given the opportunity to go out and do that.
Yep.
It was interesting in the beginning. I think you remember. I think people still think I just drink coffee in the mornings and I have wine at night. I think
that is all you do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, definitely, without a doubt. So
yeah, no, really cool. So let's talk about some of the events then. Like what events have we hosted as a group that you've been a part of? And, some of them may have been pre-existing, but you've helped elevate them to a whole new level. And then there was some that we'd never even done before. But talk through maybe some of those key events that we've put on.
I think, I mean, obviously we did the event, anytime you, I think, host, you have a speaker that comes along is risky. It always is. And I think, that was probably our first time we ever attempted something and had a sellout of 140 people.
Yes.
Which was huge success. And I think that sort of really set us onto what can we do next. And so we'll do some more of those. That's definitely in the plan this year. I think industry settled a little bit, business is settled. So I think those opportunities are around now. Everybody can.
And that was something I'm trying to think back to that, because it was an incredible sellout breakfast. And how long did you take to put that together?
That was quick. We were ridiculously silly in that. I think we turned that around in just under 6 weeks, which was insane.
And that was in terms of finding a venue, starting to get the marketing collateral, everything out. Obviously, there was an opportunity with the speaker that you had a close connection with. Right. There was just so many elements that had to come together within that sort of 6-week period, and it was just an amazing morning. And still, there's people talk about that event now and the impact of the speaker that was there, and again, bringing different businesses together that maybe not have even had any sort of connection point before. Right. That was a huge success.
And I think also the support. I think, when you have that where people want to genuinely support one or support business, and I think with us, we do so much in that charity space. So when we do those things, we have got that charity element of it.
Absolutely.
So for us, I think that's a key driver. What did we do? We then decided we were going to do a charity golf day, which is unique, very different to a corporate golf day. Charity golf day being anybody can come along and play. It's all about networking, raising money, and just having a good time out on the golf course. So we've been pretty lucky with that. We'll do our third charity golf day this year, and then, I mean, obviously
every time's a sellout as well.
Every time's a sellout, and it's fun,
day.
and so we'll start going out.
Not only is it a sellout, but every single hole of the 18 holes or whatever we end up doing is fully activated with sponsors.
Yep.
And people are talking about it being the best golf day they've ever been to, like a corporate golf day. So there's just so many things that I think you've helped elevate to this high level. It's not just doing something, but it's taking it to that next level. And it's all the little details that I find that you really excel at. And, not just with events, but with personal interactions, you always think of the little details that leave a lasting impression. And that's so amazing. And that's why people, when they come to our events, they have such a great experience that then you have an impact beyond the event, because people that have that great experience there, they leave and they go and tell their entire network about how great of a time they had. And guess what they're talking about? They're talking about the Usher brand and they're talking about Lisa. And I think that just starts to, it gets that compound effect of positivity that keeps things moving, and that builds momentum. And that's why it's so, we're almost getting to a point now where we've got a challenge whenever we have an event of going, what venue is going to have capacity for the event that we're going to have, because we know that whatever that is, we're gonna max it out. So
push the boundaries. And I think you're right with that. I think it's always, I think we have so many things that we can go to that are the same.
Yep.
It's, as you say, it's what makes that a little bit different. And I think it is important, to look after people.
Absolutely.
Make them feel welcome, and they do. And I think the events that we'll obviously look to host this year will be pretty cool, pretty special as well. Everybody, as long as everybody always leaves with something that they walk away with. And I think that's the advantage of our events. They either walk away going, wow, that was an amazing speaker, or we got a lot out of it, or they walk away going, wow, that was amazing for business. And I think, one of our strengths as well is we get people on board, but we also help connect them. It's not a case of just everybody come
Show
along,
up and
spend some money. We're going to raise some money for the charities and that, and then that's it. It's got to be introducing. And I think that's one of the really exciting things is watching people do business with us, but also where we've done the intro and other people go and do business with each other. So that's
cool.
So that's pretty cool. And then obviously, I mean, nobody can get away from the World Club Challenge. Previously Usher Cup, I think what Theo and Rabs have done is unbelievable. And
it really
in
is
fact,
unbelievable, isn't it?
I think if you can go back, and obviously I wasn't part of those the first couple of years and that, but even just looking at some of the footage and the photographs, it's insane to see where it has come as a. I mean, it's an event that is just run by a business, supported by sponsors, with amazing board rider clubs and that. But yeah, that's one that I think you definitely have to, especially after this year. You definitely have to kind of smile, and everybody needs a pat on the back, because it's something that everybody again has walked away going, wow, it's
Well,
one
it's
thing
not just
getting
an event; that is a world-class event.
Oh, absolutely.
And everyone that attends, and we're talking about top name surfers from around the world, they talk about it being such a high level experience that they compare to professional surfing events and being ranked higher or the same as, equal to. And like you said, it's run by a business, by the Usher Group, with the support of businesses. And I think that was a big difference maker this year, is that since you've come on board and you've been growing this network and these relationships and trust and these partnerships, like our level of sponsorship support this year was just unbelievable. But like you said, is that you weren't just getting sponsors for the sake of getting sponsors. You were really genuinely trying to add value to these brands and businesses. So not only getting them attached to a global event where they can have brand exposure for themselves, but really being connected to a community. And you can see that when you bring people along, you're a master connector. You find people in the room and you make sure that you grab this person and you connect them with that person, and you open those doors for them. And it's great because there's a lot of people that have businesses and they've got their hearts in the right place, but maybe they themselves haven't had the confidence to go and network to that level. And when they walk into a room, they don't always feel like they can just go and introduce themselves to everyone. So you take that pressure off. So as soon as they walk in the room, it's like, well, Lisa's here. She's going to she's just going to take me around.
Yeah, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. And I think that's really cool because people leave the day feeling like that was, money well invested, not just for the charities, but for themselves and having a good time. So, yeah.
And it was, I must say, that was probably that weekend was, you were there, a lot of fun with watching people. Most people don't surf. You've probably got, well, when I say most, maybe it's a 50-50, but you asking people to support an event that they have nothing about.
Yes.
They don't surf, probably don't watch surfing, and have gone away going, wow, that was just so different, so unique. So, and went away meeting people, which is, definitely something that's key. So kind of puts the pressure on, I think, each time.
What do we do next year?
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep thinking of what you're doing. But I think what you do is you just have these amazing people around one that can drive exactly, what you want to drive in the business. And for us as a brand, it's something that I think sets us uniquely apart as to what Usher Group do as a business.
Absolutely. So, it makes you think about future of the World Club Challenge, because if we reflect even just on this year, let's talk about some of the numbers and how large this event truly was. Because like you said, if you go back to year one, we were operating out of this little tent.
Yeah, that's it.
The main area, which we thought was so cool at the time, was this Usher tent that was this big blow up. And I've still got photos. I remember setting that up with the team. And I think at that point we might have had 15 Aussie teams. It probably was more, but it was, it was just Australian based. It was coming through COVID, having this surfing event for club riders, because the origin of Usher Cup, for anyone that doesn't know, or the World Club Challenge, is that through COVID, there wasn't allowed to be any competitions on. The whole world sort of stopped. And Theo, being as passionate as he is about, the industry of surfing, but also the kids and the community, is that he really felt the kids needed somewhere to channel their attention because the world was in a bit of disarray. So it was like, well, what can we do for the kids to actually get them focused and get them back onto a healthy track of competition and doing positive things rather than running around the streets and getting up to no good? So so became the Usher Cup, and it was this surfing event where we could bring Australian board riding clubs together to compete. And then year on year, it's just grown. The setup just got bigger and bigger. And we look at this year, we have proper purpose-built scaffolding gantries that our access team built for a VIP tent that had a 2-level platform. We could host. How many people did we host in there? It was,
I think on average we were hosting, probably about 120, 130 people.
120. Yeah. So, and this was up on a beautiful mezzanine looking over the ocean.
Could
Some
not
great
have asked
shots
for
of
better.
that. It couldn't have been a better spot. We had air conditioning
That's
units
right.
in there, which was a learning lesson from the last year.
That's right. Yeah, we had
Whenever it
air
was sweating.
conditioning units. We had, look, I mean, I always say that, you wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world except Australia. And the
stunning,
Gold
isn't it?
Coast is. And I think that that weekend of this year's World Club Challenge was, I mean, the weather threw everything at us, but its beauty was just magnified. It honestly
really was.
I mean, the water, the colour of the water, sort of looking, there's not many backdrops that you'll get better than Snapper Rocks, surfing, surfers in the water, dolphins in the water, boats going by, aeroplanes landing at Gold Coast Airport, showcasing the whole of the Gold Coast, looking up as far as the eye could see up to surfers is incredible. I mean, not only for, we had this year, I think it was 31 Australian teams, 17 international teams. We had teams coming out. First time we had a team coming out from the UK. We had teams from Hawaii, the USA.
Portugal?
Portugal, Indonesia, from Bali, New Zealand. So it's Tahiti. So it's unique in that element that you've taken, as you say, something where a few of you were sitting under the Usher blow up sort of marquee to where it is now. It was, I think world class on every level.
So, and this is a funny thing I get asked quite a bit because we've got so many clients in the industry, and they're saying like, you're a construction or a trade based business. What's this surfing event about? Like, how does that come about? And again, you go back to the reason why is such a beautiful reason, and then using it as a way to also give back to the community. So obviously charity is a huge element of it. And every year, I think now over the last 4 or 5 years of the World Club Challenge that's been running, we've given 2 charities like over $500,000. It was, I think it was five or $600,000 worth of, contribution to some selected beautiful charities that are local grassroots, and I think that was a big thing too, is Theo went through a really big vetting process of the charities. Early days was sort of going, he wanted to understand these charities, what they did for the communities, what their pathway was, that if he gave them, $100,000 or $10,000, how much of that actually went to the cause or how much of it got lost in the process. And, it's just amazing to be able to play a part there of that. And again, that's another attraction piece for the sponsors to be able to say, you're not just supporting a surfing event, or you're not just supporting the Usher Group and in our ventures of what we're doing, but you're actually giving back to the community too. So it's just this beautiful ecosystem of community. And like you said, where else would you want to be? Snapper Rocks?
Oh, I know. I was going to say, home. It's where the Olympics is going to be surfed in 2032 as well. So we're pretty cool with that. But I think it is. I think as a business, I think Usher Group can be exceptionally proud of. We've obviously got the business element. We've obviously got how many of the people that have worked here have been here for 10 years plus, which is quite unique. And then we have got that community charity-based aspect, which I think is important. And I think kudos to everybody who goes out and has a look and run the World Club Challenge, especially to Theo and Rabs who go and they're invested in the charities. They'll go and see what they do. So I think for us, going forward, it's charity-based, community-based, and what next, basically.
What next?
What next?
And I think the cool part too is that, I think what I've seen growth year to year was really what the value is for the sponsors, which is why we've been able to attract more. And I think this year was probably the first year that we could walk away and say that the sponsors really got some great value out of it. And not that they hadn't in the past, but just the total package in terms of connections, network, visibility of the event, fun, just every element you could think of really ticked the boxes. Like it felt like a very professional event this year, just like you would go to, the V8 supercars or something, because we have this VIP tent that's there. Not only was it just a beautiful setup, but we had a catered bar, we had food coming through, we had, it really, really high caliber, and credit to you. Like, obviously there's a huge team behind the
Yep.
scenes, but that team doesn't exist without the, bringing through the enthusiasm of the sponsors and the support from the sponsors, because that's probably one of the hard parts. And, without going into too much detail there, what Theo's heart is with this event, and he wants to continue to do it.
Yep.
But leading up to this point, it's been a difficult event for Usher to carry, because we hadn't had the level of support that you've helped us grow. And prior to that, like, the event costs in excess of $500,000 to run this thing. It's not a small event.
Yeah, it's not a small.
It runs 3 full days. We take over all of Snapper Rocks. Like, it's a huge setup. All of the media, like, it gets live streaming, and it can go globally, and it's free accessibility for everyone. Like, the standard in which we run this event is just unbelievable, but it comes at a premium cost, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And we still want to be able to give to, the prize winners of the board riders, but then all the charities. So a big thing for us was that how do we make the event sustainable? It's never gonna be a money making event. We don't want it to be. We want to be able to make sure that it's sustainable, so that it's not having a huge cost to the business to be able to go through, because we do love it and we want to continue doing it. And it's getting bigger and bigger. Like, to think of not being able to do the event now, like, we have to. We need to find a way to do it.
Yeah, you got to keep doing it and keep reinventing. And I think this year was probably also unique in that you had that team format, which I think made it exciting. So even if you weren't a surfer and you weren't watching, but I think one of the key takeaways from the World Club Challenge, I suppose, like, any of the events that we do, is accessibility to people who you've seen or you've watched on television, or, for myself, I mean, it's always been, from Rabs to Oki to Parko to, I've even learned to shorten everybody's names and put Lane Beach in that. And I think where the event it also brings so much sort of to that grassroots is you are around those stars.
Yes.
That whereas when other events and that you're a little bit more, you can't get to them
unless
level of separation. Whereas here, and even listening to some of the younger surfers going, their absolute dream was to sort of surf out, and you're surfing against Parko, or you're surfing against, the likes of Lane Beachley or something like that. It really
breaks down all of those barriers, doesn't
it?
In that whole world of surfing, like you said, there's often a level of separation between different levels of surfers, which, you can understand, but this was all just about bringing everyone together and making it fun with the team events. So I think it really is just a phenomenal event, and I know it's going to continue to grow. So the question is where to from here, and there's calls coming in about the event, trying to get it pulled to have multiple legs and operate in different areas of the world now, because it has such a global stage now, and it's being talked about across the world in different areas. So it's exciting to think about where it's going to go. But what I think the special part is knowing where you sit in that, as well as that you will ensure that the people that have been with us as the foundations from the beginning, no matter how big this event gets, they don't get lost and forgotten about in the process. So they can grow with the brand, they can grow with the event, because you've got that level of inclusion of making sure that that's part of it. So I guess even something to throw out there is if there was a business listening to this and they really thought about the idea of wanting to get involved with any of our events in the future, what are the best avenues or pathways? How do they learn about getting involved with the World Club Challenge or the golf day that we do? What does that look like?
Gosh, I don't know. I think find me on LinkedIn. I'm terrible at anything else, but I think LinkedIn. I think just, and I think more and more people do reach out, and they are asking a little bit more. And I think that's the exciting part across actually all our events. And we've obviously got another Q Clash event we're doing this year as well. So we sort of really mix it up: golf, footy, surfing.
So what's the Q Clash for the novices?
So Q Clash AFL. I know we've all had to learn this. So Brisbane Lions. AFL, nice short shirts, and so
fit bodies,
yes, young people. That is Q Clash Gold Coast Suns versus Brisbane Lions. So we'll look to
always a close rivalry, Gold Coast for Brizzy.
That's it. Look to host that again here on the Gold Coast, which is pretty exciting. And again, we'll introduce over sort of 200 to 300 people that we'll bring along to that as well. And again, just an amazing networking opportunity for a whole lot of businesses, people getting to meet and growing from there. And also different organizations. We also, I think, can be proud of the fact that we've helped support some young a woman in industry, all that sort of thing. I
Emerging
think we can,
businesses.
emerging,
Yep.
people that are coming up in the industry, apprentices. So we've got it all happening.
Yeah, we
It's
really
it's a
do.
it's a busy year. It's only
Yep.
February.
Only February.
Yes, only
Yep.
February. It's a busy year.
And what excites you about the year ahead, and your growth in Usher, and like what do you see on the horizon for you in your role? What keeps you hungry to keep going and doing what you're doing?
Oh gosh, keeping you on your toes,
Yeah.
asking you all the questions that I ask you. No, Michael, I'm lucky. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I think I love what I do. I love what I get to do here at the Usher Group. Surrounded by amazing people. But I think the year ahead is continued growth.
Mm-hmm.
Learning more, seeing where we can do more or get better. Obviously it's a big business. We do so many different things, but it's how can we help grow all of those businesses, and where can my role fit into all that? But I think for myself, it's continuing to just bring people together, bring businesses together, and that creates business ultimately at the end of the day. So, but I am fortunate. I think everybody knows that. I do love what I get to do every single day.
Yeah, which is so special, and I think that's a firepower in itself, because that's such an attractive thing for people to want to be around. When you can see someone loves a brand, loves what they do, they're enthusiastic, they're excited, it's like, why would you not want to surround yourself with that person? It's like the secret sauce, like,
Yes.
and I think, in today's world, everyone is under a lot of pressure. The industry is under pressure in different areas, but it doesn't mean we can't still have fun and maximize and trying to create great opportunities together. So I think you really keep that spark alive, and showing people that it's okay to actually still really enjoy what you do. You don't have to just be a slave to the system. You can work you work your ass off. You work hard. I get emails from you at 3 a.m.
That's
till
right,
11 o'clock at night. And it's that business owner mentality that you have. But you still have joy in what you do. And I think, you transition that well between family and work life as well. I know you're very big on the family side of things, and you've got a beautiful son, and you just, you've got this great outside of work life, and you do well to balance that whilst working really hard, which I think is a very big challenge for a lot of people in itself. But you're always just keeping the main priorities. You don't get caught in the drama of everything that happens, day to day in the industry. I mean, sometimes you can't help but getting dragged into certain things. But at the end of the day, you come back to, okay, what's the relationship about? Who am I dealing with? And, how can I advance and move this forward in a positive way? And really cool thing that I think as well is that, you haven't come from any construction background. So to play such a prominent role for Usher, to be someone who's out there continually at industry events and speaking on behalf of the group, it's a testament to you having been a sponge. You're just always asking, you're always learning.
It's drive everybody mad.
Yeah, well, it's great, because, that's the whole thing, is that you come in and you really want to understand the business at its core, so that when you're out there and you're communicating with all these different industry bodies, and, you connect with the most incredible people at just every level. I really admire that, as like you just go straight for whoever you can see, whether they put themselves on a pedestal or not. You just sort of go, you know what, I want to be able to connect with that person. I want them to know the Usher brand, and, you're okay with making yourself uncomfortable in those sort of situations. And, and the reason why you can do that is because you've taken the time to understand what Usher's about, so that you can talk confidently about the brand and educate people as well. Like, I think now it's great to see that so many of the opportunities that you bring forth are actually outside of our core business, which obviously we grew from being a painting focused business to now having all these other arms of the business that are so successful in their own right. But it has been difficult to overcome that stigma of, you're a painting company. And you've really helped break down those barriers, and now see the opportunities that flow through. It's often signage, it's often the access and scaffolding and things. So it's helping grow those other business units that don't have the same level of influence or preconceived idea, perception from other people in the market. So
I think you're right. And I think it's always just, I think it's like anything, even, when you go back to the networking and that, I think it's trying to just understand that everybody is ultimately the same.
Yeah.
Is it daunting? Absolutely. Are there times where I just go, oh my God, I can't believe I've actually just done that or spoken to that person or whatever. But I think you try and mix it up. I think you try and mix it up with it. I think people can quickly see through that. And again, I go back to the years of everybody being in a lockdown, I think has taught people that is who's real, who's not real, who's authentic, who's not authentic. And I think anytime you can you just talk to somebody. You can talk business. You talk a little bit about family. I mean, as
Yep.
you know, I've got a small family, but absolutely adore all of them. I mean, I think they think a lot of the time I'm completely nuts. I have to tell you. Now filming, every now and then I film something ludicrous. If I'm not standing on a surfboard, I'm now kicking a footy and all
Isn't
of
that
that. I
great?
think having a 21-year-old son is quite interesting, where I think you can just see the eye roll and whatever else. But I think that adds a lot of that human element to it as well. So I think anytime you can talk business, and that's something you and I often discuss, is it's always about family as well. I think one's always got to keep that focus, because I think that focus keeps you sane in a lot of things, and then you can have the business side. But the beauty of it is that you can share the business side with the family as well. I know I get super excited, and when I can talk about things or understand them or whatever else. And I've always said, I've been like a SpongeBob next to you, just
SpongeBob.
soaking it up, still asking the questions, but I've got slightly better at being able to answer things.
That's great. And the great thing is as well, I think that's what I love about you too, is you're so authentic and you don't try and pretend to have all the answers. Like, you just genuinely want to connect with people, and you don't have to know the answers. And I think that's a big lesson for people, is that they often will avoid or shy away from communication with other people or networking, things like that, because they feel like they don't necessarily have all the answers. So you don't need to. You just need to be able to connect the dots and then bring people back to the experts in the field. And you're just the master of connecting, because you're like, well, I don't know anything about the complexities of signage, but guess what? Here's the signage team. I'm going to introduce you to them, and you're just the conduit, the connector. And I think, I don't know, maybe to bring this into land today, if something that I know a lot of people admire and look at you and just think, almost as an inspiration of being a woman who's just so strong in the industry with networking and in your brand, and being confident to just go out and not be super polished, but just be real. How could you, if you were going to leave a message for someone who's emerging in the industry and wants to try and start going down that path of being able to build long-standing relationships, like, what are some of those keys?
I think the key is always, just be you. I think that's key. I think any time in my career, any time I've tried to be anything different has not worked out well. Because it's not who you are, and that's hard sometimes, because you can get caught up in moments, or you get caught up in success, or you get caught up in industries, or you get caught up in anything. But I think authentically, if you can just be you, because people see that, it's so much easier to be yourself than to try and be somebody else or whatever, And
Absolutely.
I think
you can only do it for so long.
That's right.
Even if you have a short-term success with pretending to be something else or someone else, or trying to people please, it's got a short life circle.
Absolutely.
So, I think you realize, if you want longevity in the industry, or long-standing relationships, you've got to be authentic, hey?
And just be, and I think have a genuine interest in people. You can go out there and do business, or you can go out and network and that, but have a genuine interest in the person. Learn a little bit more about them, whether it's business or family, and I think that is a lot easier to do now, because you've got social media. So you can go and look up the person, or have a little bit of a background. You don't have to have their whole history, but you basically know, the person loves sport or does something. I think be authentically you. I think going forward in business, I think is what's super exciting at the moment is, I mean, I think everybody does. I'm a huge any sports fan, fan of any sport fanatic, basically. But I think business and sport are entwined. And I think that's exciting. I think sometimes that makes it even easier with business, is that you can speak about all those things, or you can go to a sport event that is ultimately a business event. But you're sitting there just relaxed. You can talk about different things. But key is just be you, and show up. Show up. I think that's the biggest thing, and never be scared to learn. I'm still learning, and as we all know, middle-aged, so still learning, proud, and learn from everybody, whether they're older than you or younger. I've always said, I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate that I get to learn from you and what you've taught me. And I mean, I know we make lights of it or whatever, but I mean, you effectively, age difference could be my child. So that's probably the nice part, is that one learns, and I say that out of respect.
Though.
Yeah, and I say that out of a huge amount of respect, is that it's a learning process, and I think sometimes people are scared, to sort of go, I don't want to ask that person, they older, they'll know more, I'm too young or whatever. I think just mingle with everybody and learn from everybody, because you can learn from youth, but you also learn from those that have done a lot and made the mistakes. That's probably the best part, is having made the mistake. So and hopefully get to love what you do, no matter what it is, no matter whether you're on a construction site or you work in a factory or you get to do what I do or you do, whatever. I think if you can just find that element of loving some part of it, it goes a long way to, I think it shows.
Love it. Some great advice.
Thank you.
Well,
Words
I think
of wisdom.
we could probably talk all day, so we'll have to organise a part 2 of this, but
Awesome.
so great to catch up today.
Thank you.
And honestly, congratulations on everything you've achieved to date with the group. And, we're so grateful to have you on board. And I know that there's a great deal of people in the industry that are thankful that you're in your role to get to do what you do, because you make their world better as well.
Oh, thank you.
So we look forward to seeing it continue to grow, and I just can't wait to see what this year brings and beyond. I think we're going to have some amazing events, and I think it's, if you're not on board, if you're not in that sphere of that community, now's the time to do it, because it's elevating constantly, and
Absolutely. And look out for us, and look, what do you say? Part 2. Look out for part 2.
Part 2.
Sounds
Awesome.
good. No, thanks, Michael. That was awesome.